Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Norhanis Arina binti Rosle. My metric number is 2017674. My topic for our group project is about depression and suicidal idealizations among university students. Therefore, me and my group members already made a short survey to IIM students about the symptom of stress and depressions that can lead them to suicide. As we know, we need to understand first about suicidal depressions. A person living with depressions oftentimes experiences completely different stock before and after a depressive episode. This can be a result of a chemical imbalance and can lead to the person not understand the options available to help them relieve their suffering. Many people who suffer from depression report feeling as they lost the ability to imagine a happy future or remember a happy past. Often, they don't realize they are suffering from a treatable illness, and seeking help may not even enter on their mind. Emotional and even physical pain can become unbearable. They don't want to die, but it is the only way they feel their pain will end. So this decision is a truly irrational choice. From the situations, we know they are having problem to make a good decision before they fall to be more stressed and depressed persons. From this issue, how can we make a good decisions? We have 8 process of decision making. Firstly, we need to identify a problem because every decision starts with a problem. For example, that she or he need to identify what make their stress and tension, such as like having a family issue or have a lot of assignment because of not manage their time properly or even have a financial issue. Second is identify decision criteria. Decision criteria are factors that are important to resolving the problem. When you already know what is your main problem, you need to identify the next step to resolve it. Either you want to listen to your friend advice or follow up with counselor about your problem. Thirdly is allocate week to the criteria. And the fourth is develop alternative. That you can need to list down the viable alternative that could solve the problem. Step 5 is analyze alternative, and step 6 you need to select an alternative that you have been write down, and step 7 is implement the alternative, where you need to put the chosen alternative into actions, and lastly is evaluate decision effectiveness. Okay, evaluate the result or outcome of the decision to see if the problem was solved or not. As we know, we need to create or make a good decision because depression and stress happen when you're giving up to find a good decision. That's why you fall on the bad side. For these slides is about symptom of a major depressive disorder. Firstly, they will feel sad or empty mood, and also they feel hopeless, helpless, worthless, and guilty. For substance abuse, when they take a drug or alcohol to release their stress. Loss of interest in ordinary activity, disturbance in eating or sleeping pattern, or even irritability, increase of anxiety, or a panic attack. Difficulty concentrate or remember and making a decision. So they will talk of suicide as a good decision. And lastly is that a persistent physical symptom or pain that do not respond to the treatment. The registration number of cases in 2012 to 2017, suicidal behavior has risen among Malaysian adolescents with 10% of 18 years old having tried to kill themselves. The survey found that suicidal ideations among nation-states increased from 7.9% in 2012 to 10% in 2017. Suicidal plans similarly rose from 6.4% to 7.3% in the same period, while suicidal attempts increased from 6.8% to 9.6%. According to the survey on Malaysian secondary school students, suicidal behavior was highest among 13 years old. Okay, suicidal ideation was highest in Kuala Lumpur at 13%, while suicidal planning and suicide attempt were highest in Kuala Lumpur and Perak. Suicidal ideations and planning were highest in urban area at 10.9% and 7.9% respectively, compared to rural place. However, at age of 18 to 20 years old was recorded the highest percentage of people with moderate to severe symptoms of depression. In another statistic of data in 2019 have recorded 675 cases have been decreased to 465 cases in 2020. However, according to WHO, globally more than 800,000 deaths due to suicide case every year, with an average of one suicide every 40 seconds. This suicide case is a serious problem that we need to be addressed in order to ensure the well-being of people in the future.
Okay, turning to the next presenter, my name is Ardiansyah Mohd Rusli. So here I would like to present about the source survey that we have conducted. So first of all, descriptive statistic was used to describe the nature of the data through the generation of frequencies and also percentage. And as the outcomes, variables were categorical in nature, such as suicide ideation and attempt, as well as depression among students that we have conducted. And logistic regression analysis were conducted to determine the predictor of both suicidal ideations and also an attempts. And the demographic characteristic of the sample included 35 responses as university student, which are 27 female with percentage 77%, and also 8 male with percentage 22%, with a mean age of 20 years old. And the majority students are local students, 94%, and the rest were international students, 6%. And the prevalence of how often the students feel bothered by feeling down, depressed, hopeless, and irritable. And in this survey, about 34.4% of students, they feel this depressed or feeling down almost every day. Yes, almost every day. And almost a half of the students have felt down and depressed. And approximately 22.9% have had feeling of depression every day. And it is reported 8 university students that experienced it. And turning to another questions, and the result of the question, how often have you been bothered by feeling down about yourself or feeling that you are failure over the last 2 weeks? Okay, sorry. Surprisingly, almost a half of university students with the percentage 34.3%, they are really bothered with this feeling of failure, followed by 9 students, 25.7%, that almost every day they feel failure in their life and they tend to feel depressed in their life. And in total, it can be seen that more than 50% students feeling bothered by feeling down about themselves. So you can see in this chart, okay? Okay, In contrast, when students ask about thought that you would be better off dead or of hurting yourself uh, in committing suicide, the result the result of this question really shock, okay, because more than 50% of them answer no and never having a thought or thinking of hurting themselves, as well as having suicide ideation or attempt. And it can be said that even they having a lot of feeling of depression, but they still can hold themselves to not hurting or committing suicide, and it is a good result to hear. And on the other hand, next question or the next chart is asking about, did they feel mentally unstable, like depressed, sad, or maybe mood swing? Very interesting result here, and it is almost 50-50. Around 50% student, they barely have no idea about feel unstable mentally, and conversely another 50% they feel mentally unstable, like every day they feel like mentally unstable, like depressed, sad, and maybe mood swing. And it is a big question mark why this situation happened, and will explain by the next presenter. And turning to the next questions, in this session, my group asking randomly to 35 university students as responses, and have they ever experienced any symptoms of depression? And in this session, we provide various answers of symptoms, which are following by hopeless outlook, lost interest, increased fatigue, anxiety, changes in appetite and weight, uncontrollable emotions, looking at that, getting help, and none of above. And it is sensible to conclude that from the previous chart and from this chart, almost 50% of them experience same symptoms, which are hopeless outlook, increased fatigue, anxiety, uncontrollable emotions. And however, the higher rate of symptoms that they experience is lost interest, and it is almost 80%. And turning to another question, and we are here asking how they relieve their stress. And as usual, we are providing various answers, which are eating, watching movie, sleeping, listening to music, ibadah, crying or soothing, gaming, doing nothing, and staring at nature. And interestingly, it can be seen to the chart. Almost 80% of students, they tend to go to sleep to release their stress. Yes, and 26 students choose this step to release their stress. And however, the half of students, they tend to choose another step to release their stress, which are eating, watching movie, listening to music, as I do also, and as well as ibadah, as I do also. And even they tend to cry to relieve their stress feeling, and the percentage, all of this around 50%. Another student also, they are doing nothing to avoid stress, and also playing game, and it is around 30% of students doing this activity for releasing or relieving stress feeling of their self. Next, in this slide, we would like to present our next question of survey that we conducted. The question is, what age group has the highest mental health issue? And around 90% of students, they are answering that in their opinion, the group from 30 years old and above, they are more prone to mental health issue. And some of them answering that 19 until 29 years old has the highest mental health issue. And moreover, we are also asking them to put out their opinion about how important is mental health in their life as a students also. And very big different result, 94.3% of students having an opinion that mental health really important and crucial for their life as a student. And the rest, 5.7%, they think that mental health is not important at all for them. And lastly, we are also connecting the question from for them that did or does talking to others make you feel better? Unexpectedly, almost 60% of students choosing sometime. It means that when they feel bad or stressed maybe, they sometimes talking to others to make themselves better than before. And around 34.4% they prefer to tell their feeling or confide to their friends to make their feeling much better. And they tend to have a best friend in this case who is always there all the time. And the rest is 5.7% of students reluctant to tell anything about his good and bad feelings to others, and they say no to this.
Next, we will discuss on factors that leads to depression. There are many causes of depression and suicidal thoughts. First, stressful life events. Stress is good for us because it keeps us alert, motivated, and primed to respond to danger. However, too much stress may lead to a major depression. Second, family history of depression and mental illness. Depression can run in families, and some people will be at an increased genetic risk. Third, a death of a loved one. Next, serious trauma such as abuse, neglect, and rape. Besides, social failures such as breakup with partner or friends also can make someone depressed. Last but not least, a chaotic, unsafe, and dangerous home life. What are the effects of depression on students' education? Firstly, always absent in class. Secondly, lack of motivation to continue study. And lastly, inconsistent academic results because they cannot focus in class. Depression not only affects the depressive, but also affect people around them, especially family and friends. They will feel guilty because they had a good day but you haven't. Next, they feel powerless and afraid what might happen if the situation continues. They are fear of suicide of the person they love or know. Besides, feeling doom or gloom as they do not know what kind of mood to expect from the depressive.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Safwah binti Ahmad Zikri. My metric number is 2012922, and I will be talking about solutions for mental illness problems. So first of all, when we have a mental illness or a problem, we seek help from family, peers, or organizations. By seeking help means we have to communicate with the outside world, which is why communication is important when managing an organization. It's the same type of communication, and that communication is a skill that comes from experience. So when we learn to communicate with other people when we have problems with mental illness, we gain that experience and we can apply it when in a workplace or when managing. So that's why in any aspect, communication is a key to a healthy lifestyle, which is why communication is important. Communication is important in an organization because it controls. You gain control and you can make sure that your situation is in order in any situation. For example, we can prevent loss for if you're in a business, you're managing a business, you can prevent loss. And then if it's about mental illness, you can prevent breakdowns when you talk to other people. Second is it motivates for employees. It motivates them to work harder. And when you have great communication, and for an individual, it makes us to be better. It's kind of a healing process. Next is expresses emotions. So when you communicate, You can express your emotions like when you're disappointed in your employees or in your um, in your family or friends, and if you're troubled. And then sharing information, like what is troubling us or the causes of our mental illness. You can share that information to make us better. Which leads us to the organizations that offers the services. These organizations are the organizations that will allow you to communicate with professionals for anyone that is in need of help, also known as those with mental problems. It is also a platform where you can experience on communication, which can be applied in daily lives or in when managing at the workplace. So the first is MIASA, Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association. MIASA is a mental health advocacy and peer support NGO, which is based in Selangor. MIASA promotes, their objective is to promote awareness, address misconceptions, and give support. Some of the services that they offer are mental health assessment and communication, counseling services, and spiritual therapies. And these are out of the many services that they offer. The second organization is CCSC, Counseling and Services Counseling and Career Services Center. This organization is based in IIUM, where the students can seek help from. This organization is the one that will help the psychological well-being of the students. So the services that they offer are individual counseling, group counseling, and counseling intervention program.
Assalamualaikum and hi to Madam Kamariah, my BDF lecturer. My name is Mashitah binti Mohd Rusli, metric number 2015754. So I will continue presenting the other solution for the problem. The solution is mandate regular checkup or session with a psychiatrist or counselor for students. As in management function, motivating employees is in leading part and motivation is very important. So what is motivation? So motivation is the process by which a person's efforts are energized, directed and sustained toward attaining a goal. As is important to employees, it's as well important to students to attain goals. So I'm confident that when every students are mandated to see counselor because it has been compulsory for them to do so, there will be more students with mental illness will be helped. This is because they will have the courage to speak up because they've been asked to rather than they volunteer to do so. As what been stated in Maslow hierarchy of need theory, which are psychological needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. So by giving students chance to talk and share their problems with professionals will generally fulfill their safety needs, social needs, and esteem needs. Okay, now I'm going to continue with potential business that Counseling and Career Services Center of IIUM or any company and big association in Malaysia like MIASA can run. Firstly, to begin, every decision starts with problem. Problem is a discrepancy between an existing and a desired condition. I'm gonna go through the decision-making process. Firstly, identify a problem, depression and suicidal ideation among university students. Secondly, identifying decision criteria. First, raise people awareness towards mental illness. Second, improve mental health among students. Third, less prejudice on students who face mental illness. Fourth, know how to control emotion and stress. Fifth, an increase in the number of students recovering from mental illness. Allocate weights to the criteria. So from 5 listed, choose 4 the best. So first, improve mental health among students. Second, know how to control emotion and stress. 3, raise people awareness towards mental illness. And fourth, an increase in the number of students recovering from mental illness. So fourthly, developing alternatives, for example, mental health focused supplements, mobile meditation studio, positive card game, lifestyle planner, bath products, digital health apps, and luxury weighted blankets. Analyzing alternatives. From all these listed, evaluate an alternative merely by summing up the assessed values for each one. Number 6, selecting an alternative. So from all alternatives, the most valued is digital health apps. Number 7, implementing the alternative, which is digital health apps. And lastly, evaluate decision effectiveness. And for that, I have come to the end of my part. Thank you for listening. Till next time, madam.
A troubled mind often stems from thinking of worldly things, but most problems and incidents happen because Allah still loves you and reminding you to be closer to Him. The teachings of Islam are intended to spread maslahah or goodness and prosperity in the life of mankind in this world and in the hereafter. Very appropriate and coincides with the term Islam itself, which is derived from the Arabic word salama, which means peaceful, good and prosperous. Islam, which has been revealed by Allah SWT for all mankind through the messenger of Rasulullah, peace be upon him, is known as an ad-din and way of life that has been extremely perfect and comprehensive, as mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 3. So, we are going to look at the Islamic perspectives on mental health, and by doing so, we must refer to the Quran and Sunnah, as been stated in Surah An-Nisa verse 59 and 65. From the Quran, we can see that the mind and intellect is something that Islam emphasizes. There are many verses in the Quran that mention the mind, such as the 8 words. We can see that in decision-making in Islamic way, as a Muslim, apart from the step-by-step intellectual approach on setting the options guided by Quran and Sunnah, we have istikharah and tawakkul when we have decided. And that every level is always guided from the Islamic islands, that is towards the goals that we have set that have to do about Islam itself, that can bring prosperous to our life in the dunya and the hereafter. Not only that, as a Muslim, Allah has prohibited us from doing things that can bring harmful to our bodies, that make us unable to think clearly, and it is the same with mental health. Islam teaches us to always keep our minds in a conscious state, do things that enlighten the mind, like maintain your body health, consuming only the halal, always staying positive, consistent in doing the good act, find a good friend, and be rational. And that is the maqasid al-Shari'ah, the reflection after implementing the rules from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is undeniable that the treatment and care of mental health itself is geared towards the preservation of one or more of the 5 things demanded by maqasid al-Shari'ah. Mental health is directly or indirectly intended to preserve the benefits related to religion, soul and mind, lineage and property. This is because the religion itself demands its followers to always preserve and maintain a good level of health, whether on the physical or mental, social or spiritual. This coincides when Islam sets the purpose of its presence is to preserve the religion, soul, mind, health and property.